If there's one thing that you should know about me, it's that I love the Ace Combat series. Something about hopping into a fighter, shooting down hundreds of enemy planes, being recognized by friend and foe alike for your godlike actions in the skies, all while an amazing story and god-tier soundtrack accompanies the flying. No series has combined a good story, intense music, and the amazing gameplay of flying multi-million-dollar military aircraft like the Ace Combat series has. And the series' most recent entry is still a great example of the series at its best. Fun fact, back when this game first came out, I did a full Let's Play of it. And let me tell you, it was an amazing experience to finally be able to play a new Ace Combat game at the time with a brand new engine, amazing looking physics, graphics, soundtrack, story. I say again, it was an amazing experience. And then I ended up deleting that playthrough along with every one of my other videos when the COPPA scare that concluded 2019 happened, because your boy wasn't about to get a $42,500 fine from the FTC. However, now that I'm in the process of essentially starting my channel from a clean slate, all of that evidence of being an Ace Combat fan is gone. So I can only hope that I can prove that I'm a fan of the series through today's video, and through future videos of this game and other Ace Combat games. Wink wink nod nod. Anyway, why did I decide to cover the game that's in today's video? Well, a little indie game called Project Wingman was released not too long ago, and for an indie dev title, this game kicks some serious butt. I'm not kidding when I say that it rivals Ace Combat, it's so good. So after having sunk a plentiful amount of time into the game, I got the inspiration to review Ace Combat 7? In all seriousness, the reason why I've decided to finally review this game on my channel is because I do plan on making a Project Wingman review, but I felt as if it would be more appropriate to get a review of Ace Combat 7 out first, since Project Wingman will be, and already has been, compared as an Ace Combat clone. A really good one at that, but still a clone. That, and I also need to figure out how I'm going to record the gameplay because my PC isn't exactly the top-of-the-line desktop PC that can handle Crysis on it, you know? So I gotta figure that out as well. So rest assured, I will be making a Project Wingman review in the future, but today we will be reviewing this game. So, my fellow Nuggets and Aces, get ready as we take to the skies and review Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown.
Which path you would choose? Burn Osea to the ground.
Trigger, engage. I managed to catch a glimpse of the three strikes.
I have visual. Arsenal burn confirmed.
Engage at will. UAVs won't hesitate to kill. No way I'm dying out here. Don't worry. Stick with Trigger. You'll make it.
Oh, really?
All aircraft caution. Bogies.
I don't know for sure until I tested them myself.
As of the date in which this video is published, Ace Combat 7: Skies Unknown is 2 years old. 2 years! Christ, I'm getting old. In all seriousness though, that is just crazy to think about. Having released on January 18th, 2019, this game was a new addition into the Ace Combat series after quite the long drought in terms of releases. To give you some perspective, the most recent Ace Combat game that came out before then was Ace Combat Infinity, the series' first and only at this point free-to-play title, which ended up being loved by fans in the end. And even then though, the game's servers got shut down in 2018, so we as the Ace Combat community were limited on options. Yeah, we had the Holy Trinity to keep ourselves entertained, but in terms of a fresh, new entry into the series, we were lacking. Despite that, in 2015, the Ace Combat 7 announcement trailer was released, and all of our hopes and dreams of a new Ace Combat game had finally come true.
UAVs have been launched. There's too many of them. You're surrounded. Head for the clouds. They're coming. You're mine.
However, it would be 4 more years from the date of that announcement trailer before we would get the game, and it would have been 12 years since a numbered Ace Combat entry. But it would all be for good reason in the end. I'm going to do something that I haven't yet done when it comes to these kinds of reviews and actually discuss about the development of Ace Combat 7 before proceeding to cover the actual game. Because the circumstances in which this game was made in makes it all the more incredible that we managed to not only receive this game in as polished of a state as it was in, but also just the mere fact we got this game in general. To start things off, we need to discuss who the team making these games is. The team responsible for making the Ace Combat games is called Project Aces, headed by Kazutoki Kono, who is, for a lack of a better term, the Ace Combat community's version of Shigeru Miyamoto. Project Aces is a sub-team of the larger development and publishing company Bandai Namco. This small part of Bandai Namco has been responsible for basically all of the Ace Combat games that have ever been released. Now, when we think about it like this, a sub-development studio within a larger studio in charge of making games of the same caliber, but with less people and resources. In other words, Project Aces had to do the same thing that Bandai Namco was doing, but with a smaller team and budget due to them being a sub-development team of the company. You can already tell how instances such as Ace Combat 7 being released in the polished and excellent fashion that it did was quite the achievement. The following information that I will be addressing is from Project Aces' main lead, Kazutoki Kono. He made a string of tweets that was translated by Task Force 23 on Twitter right around when the game first launched, so the following information will be based off of this string of tweets. Kono had actually developed the idea of a new Ace Combat game back when Infinity was still the series' latest entry, but due to Bandai Namco's insistence on catering to the free-to-play market, hence why Infinity was released as such a game, he had to sit on it for 2 years until he and the rest of the team could actually begin work on the game. Luckily, the team saw how supported Infinity was, and this is what convinced them that they could make Ace Combat 7 on, at the time, new hardware. They started up the project, and then it got suspended. However, they had developed a trailer in time for the 2015 PSX, and when it was shown to the world, the cheers of the fans rang through Kono's ears. He and the rest of Project Aces, having gathered new inspiration from the incredible reaction to the announcement trailer, started the whole thing over to make the best game that they could. It's crazy to think about now since the game did really well, but back when Ace Combat 7 was in development, the rest of Bandai Namco was actually laughing at Project Aces for being shown on the PSX screens in consecutive years. Soon there was a joke made among the Bandai Namco staff regarding Project Aces' game. Will it fly? Despite the mockery from others in the company, Kono and the rest of Project Aces continued. This was when they started to experiment with the VR systems, but this only led to things getting so complicated that progress slowed to a halt. Nothing felt as if it was being done, to the point where the goal vanished from them. Due to that goal vanishing from them, Kono made the call to start over again, his explanation being that despite this call being an inconvenience to basically everyone on the team, it was for the fans. Kono wasn't about to continue with a half-assed game. He wanted this game to be the best that it could be. And luckily for Project Aces, they would have a stroke of luck in Christmas of 2018 when the game was pulled from offshore development into being treated as a large-scale project. Much needed help had arrived, especially in the form of additional staff, one of which was Shimamoto, another popular figure in the Ace Combat community. Kono claimed that he thought he was the only crazy person up until that point due to how committed he was for this game. He even tells of a moment in which someone directly called his boss and asked him to be fired, claiming that he asked for too much. However, Kono's boss defended him, saying that he didn't believe that was the case. Then, the painful days where seemingly no progress was made continued. Kono's boss even called him into his office one day and asked him directly if the project should be discontinued or if it should still keep going. Kono said the project should continue, to which his boss gave him the green light to keep going. However, Kono had to prove to the company as a whole that this project was still worth continuing on, even if he had gotten his own boss's approval. Kono made a short document coupled with a short video clip of the progress on the game the team had made so far. It was these two things that gave Kono the approval he needed to continue. From that point on, development ran its course until the launch of the game, and when it released in 2019, Project Aces was able to see that it was all worth it. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown became the third best-selling game in the series, only beaten by the original Air Combat and Ace Combat 4, and was praised by both critics and players alike. Well, critics who had IQs above their shoe sizes, at least.
Dogfighting in Ace Combat is, and always has been, surprisingly complex. There are tricks and advanced maneuvers to figure out using the advanced turning controls that bring lots of nuance to the combat. There are tricks and advanced maneuvers to figure out using the advanced turning controls that bring lots of nuance to the combat. While there is a lot to like about its look and feel, Ace Combat 7 leans way too heavily on its nonsensical story. A Suicide Squad-like team of prisoner pilots conscripted into a war sounds like a perfectly light and breezy excuse to get you in the air, but it's overwrought and hard to follow. Worse, you can't really avoid it. Even if you skip the cutscenes, there's a heaping helping of exposition in every mission briefing, and a steady stream of inane commentary from your squad mates and mission commands during each level. And a steady stream of inane commentary from your squad mates and mission commands during each level. You need to pay attention to all that dialogue because it sometimes provides context that will help you understand your mission. Even then, goals and rules aren't always clear. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is a great-looking arcade flight combat game, and zipping over high-quality terrain, trying to establish missile locks and evade pursuers can be a lot of fun. But the experience often gets weighed down by its weird and convoluted but persistent story and poor communication of objectives.
Ace Combat 7 is one of the few games that went through development hell and finally came through in a polished, content-filled, amazing game. Project Aces needs to be commended for their strength, determination, perseverance, and commitment to making this game as best as it could be. Now let's get onto the actual game itself. Ace Combat 7 is an arcade flight action game that takes place in the Strange Real universe, which is an alternate reality version of Earth that literally just has the layout of the planet and the names of the countries switched in comparison to the real world Earth. Oh, and the planet constantly gets into wars. I'm pretty sure we're on World War XIV at this point. Unlike how the real world worked, in which the major superpowers of the world would use nukes to deter each other from an all-out attack, the countries in the Ace Combat community go, nah, let's see how this plays out first. And the war in which Ace Combat 7 takes place in is another one of those wars, where major superpowers declare war but decide to use conventional warfare as their primary means of fighting. Oh, and something about drones. Wee, look, I can fly! Wee, look! Wee, look, I can fly! Wee, look, I can fly! In all seriousness, the conflict in Ace Combat 7 revolves around the Kingdom of Erusia conducting a surprise attack on the Federation of Osea after Erusia decides it's had enough of Osea stepping on their crisp white sheets that is their land with their dirty boot that is the lighthouse, which is the primary cause of this war. Osea sees it as a gateway to the stars and sees it as a way to help the world in general, while Erusia sees it as Osea asserting their dominance on their land. So instead of building a lighthouse of their own, giving Osea the middle finger, they decide, hey, let's use AI to deal most of the damage for us in this war. They can handle it. Which sounds like a bad idea on paper, but it actually works quite well. Oh, and her? She's the human female version of Shadow the Hedgehog with how edgy and hardcore her lines are.
Nah. God, I hate the smell of this place. It's all fake and lies and bullshit. It reeks.
Part of the story is from her perspective, and she becomes the gal that helps out with outfitting your planes for missions. Her backstory is that she and a handful of other people, including her grandpa, built an F-104C, which is a Cold War era jet that looks like what would happen if a pencil was given wings and an engine. She ends up being shot down due to being in military airspace because she just so happened to take to the skies as war was beginning to happen.
In case you were wondering, yeah, I survived.
How? Anyway, onto the actual story where we make things go boom. You play as Trigger, a silent protagonist that is originally part of Osea's IUPF, or International Union Peacekeeping Force, which, fun fact, that group made their first appearance in Ace Combat Joint Assault for the PSP and PS Vita, which was not that good. Anyway, as I stated before, you start off in the IUPF, then get put into a penal unit.
You, solitary now.
Then you join a Special Ops Squadron where you become the ace of the Osean Air Force. Needless to say, it's quite the ride. So that's the basic premise of the game for you. Erusea declaring war on Osea because Osea is encroaching on their land with the space elevator. I've seen some folks complain that the game story is a bit confusing, and while I can understand being introduced to a brand new world in a series that has had many Ace Combat games before it, I personally believe that Ace Combat 7 does a great job of having its own contained story in the strange real world, while also making a plentiful amount of references to the other games in the series. I also know that you aren't meant to play the game on Novice Flight difficulty, and while I am incredibly stupid, my IQ is at least a number that's larger than the length of this peanut I pulled from Google Images. Okay, I'll let it go, I'm done being salty. You can't spell ignorant without IGN. In all seriousness, how is the story itself, actually? This game's story is a really good one, on par with the storylines from the Holy Trinity, in my opinion. It features you playing as the silent protagonist Trigger, as I mentioned earlier, as he finds himself fighting against Erusea after their surprise attack. Sounds a bit boring on paper, right? Well, thankfully, the game manages to tell a much larger story that involves different characters and groups, so the story isn't just kill the people who stand under the orange and white flag. Which, even then though, that story alone would be interesting enough given the chain of events that happen in regards to the war later on in the story. Am I going to go over the whole story here? No, because one, I feel as if you should experience the story itself, and this is a review video, not an analysis, and two, multiple people have already summarized and explained the story way better than I ever could. 3, I may or may not be doing an Ace difficulty playthrough on the channel, granted no commentary, unfortunately, but I may or may not be posting a playthrough of the game in the future? Okay, story aside, how is the gameplay? The gameplay in Ace Combat 7 is the good old Ace Combat gameplay that features fast-paced, intense action that leaves you with hardly any time to breathe if you're performing well in the air. Firing missiles at enemy aircraft, dropping bombs and air-to-ground missiles on enemy targets down below, evading missiles that were fired at you, it all feels great and plays out extremely well. We're already starting off strong with the core flying experience being great, but it doesn't stop there. The game's progression uses an aircraft tree that has you purchasing aircraft, weapons, and parts with credits that you earn at the end of every mission. As with any other Ace Combat game, well, most of them anyway, you start off with a low-tier fighter and make your way through better-performing aircraft until you make your way up to the super planes that have insane speed, maneuverability, firepower, etc. Going from an F-16C Fighting Falcon to something like the F-22 or the Su-57 is a night and day difference, to give you an example. Before you go out on a mission, you're able to not only pick the plane you fly, but also pick your SP, or Special Weapon, which is a secondary weapon kind of selection where you equip a weapon with different attributes compared to your standard missiles. Whether that be multi-lock-on air-to-air missiles, unguided bombs, railguns, whatever it may be. In the actual missions themselves, with every enemy that you eliminate, score is added until you get a final score at the end of the mission, which gives you a rank. Along with your score, you're also given a time bonus depending on how fast you complete the mission. Both of these scores will combine to give you your total score, which will give you your rank for the mission, C being the lowest rank and S being the highest rank. There are also small bonuses that contribute to the total amount of credits you get at the end of a mission, such as your selected difficulty giving you a credit multiplier, getting extra credits for completing the mission without taking any damage, etc. The difficulty between the different options are well balanced too. We've got ourselves the casual easy or easy difficulty, which are perfect for if you're an official game critic or someone brand new to the Ace Combat series or Arcade Flight action games in general. Normal for normal enemy resistance, hard where enemies show a bit more challenge and the weapons deal more damage to you, and Ace difficulty for those of us that have mastered this game. In the missions, you also have your squad mates that you team up and fly with, and while they can grab a few kills here and there, they primarily serve to be there to enhance the battlefield as a whole. Most of the work is done by you, which, given the Ace Combat circumstances of you being your army's morale figure, actually works in the game's favor when paired up with the context of the story. And there's even some DLC. That's right, this game was able to add in 3 DLC missions which feature you and the team hunting down an advanced submarine carrier hybrid that went rogue from the Erusians, and let me say this much without spoiling it. Project Aces didn't need to go this hard for 3 DLC missions, but I am super glad that they did. They also included DLC planes from other Ace Combat games such as the Morgan, XFA-27, CFA-44 Nosferatu, etc. Okay, so that's both the story and gameplay of the campaign in a nutshell. Are there any negatives? There are hardly any negatives for me to discuss. The only kinds of negatives that I can think of off the top of my head are that the translations to the English version of the game can be a bit wonky here and there. I'm not sure how it is for the other languages though, I do have to let you all know that, but I know for the English version there are a couple of hiccups here and there.
The aircraft carrier Vulture also managed to escape Gandar Bay safely. Gandar Bay, Gandar Bay, Gandar Bay.
A humanitarian mission from Yuktovania airdrops some Yuktovania.
And I do have to admit, some of the actual dialogue and writing of the story can be a bit wonky as well. My particular favorite instance of this being when your squad mates roleplay as chickens.
Cyclops 2, stop fluttering about and stay close to my ass.
Stop treating me like a newborn chick. I've shot down my fair share of enemies.
Fox 2, chirp, 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 little chick. Just stick with your mother head and you'll get back to the roost safe and sound.
Overall though, the voice acting itself is really strong. I didn't feel like there was a single weak character in the cast. All of the voice actors, from enemies to your squad mates to any other allies, were all performed really well in this game too.
Yes, the enemy just hit the control tower. Hey, what's with all the shaking?
But in terms of negatives for the campaign, that's pretty much it. Now, I can hear you already.
Bro, you're an Ace Combat fanboy. That's the only reason you're saying it's a 9 out of 10 game.
While yes, I do consider myself a huge fan of the Ace Combat series, I'm not going to blindly declare each game as 10 out of 10 amazing. Even the Holy Trinity has some things I don't necessarily like or has some outright flaws for Ace Combat 4, 5, and 0, even if they are very few in number per game. Ace Combat 7 is no different, because this game's multiplayer offering is bad. The game's multiplayer is on the one hand not very good, but on the other hand, the explanation for why it's not good is understandable. Therefore, I have deemed Ace Combat 7's multiplayer as tragically bad. Now, the actual gameplay of this mode is perfectly fine. There are no bugs, glitches, nothing wrong with the core flying experience, except for the guy that uses a hack to spam unlimited QAAMs at you.
Box 2, Box 2. Alpha 2, out. Chaffin flares Alpha 2, out.
However, the kind of content we have offered to us here is very shallow. A number of factors are at fault for why this game's multiplayer doesn't have much meat surrounding the bone, but I've dissolved it into 2 big reasons. The first of which should be very obvious given the context of the development of this game. This game was difficult to develop. Keep in mind, Project Aces is a sub-team of Bandai Namco, and their project didn't even get full attention until Christmas of 2018. Before then, it was treated like a side project. Coupled with the fact that this game had a January 2019 release date, this meant the game only had a year or so to properly bake in the oven. Before then, the oven was busted and it couldn't cook at the right temperature. Given the fact that most Ace Combat players play the game for the campaign most of the time anyway, I have no doubt that the developers put most of, if not all of their eggs into the campaign basket, since that is what this game would be remembered for. Thankfully, their goal was achieved in that regard, if that is how they went about thinking about it, and the campaign is really good and it is what carries this game. However, this left little time for the development of multiplayer, and is most likely the reason why what we're offered here is bare bones. The second reason why Ace Combat 7's multiplayer was bad, at this point in time, we had just come off of Ace Combat Infinity, which is one of, if not the only Ace Combat game predominantly remembered for its multiplayer, because the game's multiplayer kicked some serious butt. So to have the multiplayer experience for the next generation of consoles after having come off an amazing multiplayer experience with Infinity be like this, was disappointing to a lot of people, myself included. So, why is this game's multiplayer not that good? Well, firstly, we're only given 2 modes here, Team Deathmatch and Battle Royale, which is just free-for-all. The second of which, both of these modes are only air-to-air combat. There are no instances of firing on the ground targets, participating in any large-scale battles, not even an instance of said air-to-air battle being something like a Kimona or a Mayhem kind of battlefield, with allies in the background to give that battle a sense of scale. Thirdly, and this is the biggest one of them all, and is what killed my sense of enjoyment I had for this game's multiplayer, the poor weapon balance. The 2 ways to go if you want to sweat in the multiplayer are either equipping the Quick Maneuver air-to-air missiles, the QAAMs, or the EML, the railgun. With the QAAMs, you can fire quick maneuvering missiles that will make multiple attempts to hit you, circling back around at minimum twice, if not 3 times, if a player has the parts to increase its flight distance and accuracy. Couple this with multiple people using it in either TDM or free-for-all, and you will hear that missile alert continue to go off until you get shot down.
Missile incoming! Bravo 1, bandit on you! Missile evaded. Impressive. Bandit down.
To give a comparison, the only other time that I've ever heard the missile alert go off this much is in Project Wingman's Conquest mode. The other alternate path to go down is to use the EML. Now, granted, because the EML is a manual aim weapon, you automatically gain a few respect points for that fact alone, but once you get the hang of it, this thing isn't that difficult to use in all honesty. Is there any good that comes from the multiplayer? Well, you do get to hear soundtracks from older Ace Combat games during matches, which is a neat little touch. Other than that, though, the flying works? Yeah, I can't defend this game's multiplayer all that much. Despite that, though, Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is a true return to form for the franchise after having not released an official numbered title in 10 plus years. While its multiplayer offering is lacking and is unfortunately quite forgettable, its campaign is among the best campaigns in the series that I have personally played. It delivers great, high-paced, intense flying and action that allows you to become an ace pilot in the skies, all while a great story and god-tier soundtrack accompanies the flying. If you haven't played this game yet and you're into arcade flight action games, I strongly recommend that you give this game a shot. And with that being said, that will do it for this review, everyone. What do you think of Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you dislike it? Do you hate it? Hopefully not the latter two, but if for one reason or another you do, let me know why in the comments below. Let's get a little discussion going. Side note, I know that a lot of you watching on this channel right now came from my playthrough of Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. I know that the people watching this primarily are just from Ace Combat in general, so I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with the Ace Combat touch. I'm planning on still doing other games, but I may have an Ace Combat focus on the channel, since that is what currently, the people watching this video are watching this for. So I might keep up with that approach. I might continue to switch it up with other games. I might do a multi-game. I might be a multi-game kind of channel, or I could just be an Ace Combat kind of channel. But then again, I don't want to be a copycat of Ace Combat fan, who is the Ace Combat channel. So I don't know. I might stick with the multi-game approach that I'm sticking with right now. But I know a lot of you people were probably looking forward to this review, and I know a lot of you are probably looking forward to the upcoming Let's Play, which will be arriving very shortly, as in like tomorrow or the day after, depending on the schedule as of when this video is posted. So I know you were looking forward to this. I know you're probably looking forward to the Let's Play in the future. And with that all being said, that will do it, everyone. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and if you really want to, you can hit that subscribe button and be sure to click that bell icon to receive all notifications for future uploads. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and peace out, everyone. Whew! Finally got around to covering this game on my channel. Took me long enough, didn't it?